friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. Tonight we're talking about all-time great summer movies. It's a geek out. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, fellow geek. How are you, Phil?
I am super geeky fantastic. How are you, my friend?
That's awesome. I am doing great. This is going to be a fun
show. Happy summer,
show.
Everybody. Summer is,
yeah.
You know, we're almost to the end of it now, but we've been enjoying it. And what's the best thing about summer? Is it summer movies?
There's lots of great things about summer. If you're a college kid and you're out for the 3 months, that's a pretty great
school is fun. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That was always a big plus. Warm weather, going swimming, baseball, lots of great stuff about summer. But one of the best things about summer is the summer movie. It's a kind of a thing that came to be in my lifetime. That there was a time when they didn't talk about summer movies, and then it happened. It became an actual thing.
There's one particular movie that you're going to mention here in a minute, Phil, that I think launched it. But
I think so too.
We'll talk about that.
Well, we were putting together notes for how we would talk about summer movies, and of course we came up with different approaches. I'm actually going to give my list for my lifetime up to age 30, because I think after you're 30, it doesn't mean as much, sadly. The summer movies they're still fun, but it doesn't mean as much. So I'm going to give my list of summer movies up to when I turned 30, and then Stephen, you're going to talk about one particular summer, one formative summer.
The best summer ever for movies, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So
all right, so I want to talk. I'm going to go way back in time and talk about the first summer movie that hit me as a summer movie, and it was well before the first actual summer movie. That one's second on my list. But in 1968, there was a science fiction film called The Green Slime, and my dad took the kids, Mom didn't go along on this one, to the drive-in, and we watched it. So I was only 6 years old. Everyone who listens to the show regularly knows I'm an old fossil, right? So I've got a movie on my list from the 60s, which is amazing. But this is very formative for me anyway, because at the beginning of the summer, we had gone to that same drive-in and watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then here it is, it was closer to the end of the summer, and we saw The Green Slime. And I think those are my first two drive-in experiences, maybe. Maybe in 1965 we went to see Sound of Music at the drive-in, but I don't really remember that. You know, that's before my actual memory. This is the first time I remembered going with my parents to like a quote-unquote grown-up movie. It was 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then a couple months later, I see The Green Slime. And both of those movies had a profound impact on me, because it's like I have this idea in my head now of what grown-up movies are about. They're about spaceships, right? It's all about like going into space. And because The Green Slime was set in space, and these guys get this stuff on them, and it's a monster. And I really don't remember much about the movie. I thought it was terrifying, right? I thought it was just the most, oh no, 2001: A Space Odyssey is like, if we go into space, everything's going to get super weird. And this one was like, if we go into space, we're going to get slime on us, and it's going to kill us. But somehow I liked it anyway, and I got really excited about science fiction, I think, after seeing those two movies. So that was just a great summer movie experience. Okay, I'll work quickly through my list, because I know we got a lot to talk about here. But you've probably never seen The Green Slime.
I don't think I have. I've seen The Blob. That was even an earlier version of probably something very similar.
The same kind of idea. Yeah, I don't think it was. The Blob isn't set in space, though, right?
No. It came from space, I think.
Right. But, this is almost like a precursor to the Andromeda Strain kind of thing. Okay. Although I'm not sure what year that movie came out. But more of an action sci-fi, monster movie kind of a thing. Okay, so the next big summer movie on my list is one you were talking about, Stephen. 1975, Steven Spielberg, Jaws, right? Created the genre. Created the big summer blockbuster.
I think he created the summer blockbuster. I really do. I love that movie so much, Phil. I'm going to just tell you, there's a lot of great moments in Jaws. My favorite moment in the entire movie is not when the shark's attacking or anything, or we need a bigger boat, and that, great, those are all great parts too. But the guy sitting around the table in the boat, him talking about his experiences on the Indianapolis.
Yes,
that was, to me, the best moment in the movie.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you got to love about it is what a cast, right?
Right.
It's
yeah.
Just an
Robert
amazing
Shaw.
cast.
Apparently Robert Shaw was intoxicated the entire time they were filming that movie, and that is just a testament. Yeah. It was a testament to how great an actor he was, that it was so good. I mean, what he delivered as Quint.
Well, I'm glad he was. I mean, his health notwithstanding, because his performance is just absolutely amazing. It's one of the all-time great movie characters, Quint. Right. And one of the all-time great movie performances, I think. And just playing off those other two, Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss, it's just about a perfect movie, Jaws. It's as close to a perfect movie as I think you will ever see, both in terms of technical execution, in terms of all the parts coming together, the performances and all that kind of stuff, and in terms of just being a big, fun summer monster movie, right? Because that's really what it is.
Well,
Jaws.
It is a monster movie, and my thought with a good monster movie needs to have this element to it, and so many monster movies don't. Okay, so many monster movies are just the monster gets to hack and slash, and really the monster is the protagonist in some of these slasher films, right?
Yep.
But in Jaws and in the original book version of Dracula and movies that follow that, there's something very important that happens. The monster gets to have his day at the beginning of the story. But there's a point at which the good guys band together and go hunt him.
Right.
And that happens in Dracula. It happens in Jaws. It happens in the good versions of these movies, or the good versions of these tales, because I love that part. They don't look like they're up to the task, but they're gonna do it anyway because they're heroes. And that's to me that makes a great story. I love it.
Jaws. It makes a wonderful story. Well, contrast Jaws though with my next item on the list, 1979, Alien, the original Alien, the Ridley Scott Alien, which has a lot of the same elements, but there is not a hopeful adventure going on. All
this is about is Ripley needs to survive. I mean, all
attempts to band together and kill the thing are utterly doomed. Right? It's just there's not a lot of that feeling, and survival is about all you can hope for at the end of Alien. But to me, Alien was important because it was like green slime redux, right? It's like, hey, we're back to this, right? We're out in space. There's terrible monsters. That's a fun thing to do in the summer.
For the same reason I love Jaws, I prefer Aliens, the sequel, to Alien. Alien is like that horror movie I was telling you about that you're just trying to survive it, right? Aliens, there is a point at which the hero, and there's no banding together because she's basically on her own, right? But she turns the table on the alien and battles it. She finds her courage and does what she needs to do to battle it straight on. And it's definitely my favorite of the series.
Oh, okay. Well, when I get done with my list, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong about Aliens, and also why most of your list is no good. So that'll be fun.
We'll get to that. We'll get to why I'm
going into your list here in just a moment. But let me finish mine, and then I'll have some parting comments that completely destroy your list. Okay. So here we go. Okay. 1982, The Thing, my first of two John Carpenter movies, and then 1986, Big Trouble in Little China, which is not in any way a monster movie, really. But just an all-time great summer movie, and I didn't even see it in the summer. I actually saw it on VHS like a year later, but it's just that is just a great movie, and
that is a fun movie. No doubt.
I just added it to the list because I was thinking about John Carpenter. The Thing brings the alien down to earth, gives you this tight, paranoid, kind of alien-like movie in a lot of ways. Kind of that same grim. We're not getting out of this. Once again, it goes against the Jaws or Aliens pattern, and not really a very fun ending to that movie. I guess some of mine are kind of downers. There it is. I'm okay with that. Big summer movies can be huge downers, and they can still be a lot of fun.
But not Big Trouble in Little China. It's practically a comedy.
Big Trouble in Little China is a comedy. I'm going to list it as one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I love that movie so much.
We really stormed the gates of hell that time, didn't we?
It's on the replay.
I love that character. He's constantly doing John Wayne. I mean, that's the swagger. That's what he
slips into it kind of subtly, and then not so subtly. He gives you
that's right.
He gives you the John Wayne. And then my final entry is Jurassic Park, 1993. I was actually pushing 31, so I broke my own ground rules here, Stephen. So feel free to break them in any way you want to. My ground rules are always just for fun anyway. But here's what I'm going to say about 3 of the items on my list. Jaws, Alien, and Jurassic Park were all standalone films at the time they were made. They later became franchises, and franchises have become the big driver for summer movies. But each of these was better, I think, as a movie. Obviously, Jaws much better as a movie than the franchise that followed.
I don't even know that I consider Jaws a franchise. The sequels, and there were several, I think they went up to 4 or 5, they were all terrible, to the point that I completely ignored their existence and just loved the original film.
It doesn't matter if you think it's a franchise or not. The studio knows it was, because they built people.
They've made money, right? So that's all that matters, right? As a film goer, ignore the sequels, and if you have a retrospective of Jaws at the local theater, I'll put down money and go watch it right now.
Yeah, I think the Jurassic Park sequels are better than the Jaws sequels, but it's better as a standalone movie. Right. If they had never made any more. And
it started life as a single novel that Michael Crichton did not intend to make a sequel to Jurassic Park. The original novel had him basically nuke the park, right?
Right.
And there was not going to be a sequel, Lost World, which he did pen. He wrote that novel, but that was really after the success of Jurassic Park, the movie.
Right.
So that he went back to that, but
that has a little credibility because Michael Crichton was involved. But I feel one of the problems with the summer movie, if there's a problem with the summer movie, is the studios, they just like giving us more of what we ask for, and so things that were great standalone movies became series that weren't always so great. Alien, you're right, Aliens is definitely the most successful movie in the series. But it's not really a sequel to Aliens. I mean, to Alien. It's this different thing, right? It's this 80s action flick, right? Which is kind of good in its own terms, but it's different, and it's got the same monsters in it for sure, but it's different enough from the first one that you can say, well, they really turned a corner with that, right? They took a kind of a artistic, grim vision of the future, and they turned it into this action movie. And then subsequent movies weren't as good because they didn't know what to do, right? Do we do more action? Is it more of a horror movie? They were kind of stuck after that. So I think it was hard to get anywhere. And then Jurassic Park, it's all just been, well, here's more special effects with dinosaurs. You seem to like that. We'll give you more.
I've enjoyed the sequels to Jurassic Park. Like you say, it's considerably more than the sequels to Jaws. But the first movie is the indispensable movie in that series as well.
Exactly.
So, and the rest,
as far as I'm concerned, in most series, the first one is
there's some notable exceptions to that, and maybe I'll get into that with my list a little bit.
All right. Well, let's do it. Okay. So, Stephen, I've used up way more of the time on the show than I was supposed to. So quickly, tell us about the
best summer of all time. Okay, yeah. I was only 12 at this summer, but 12 is like the perfect age for love. For falling in love with the summer movie, right?
Absolutely.
I mean. Yeah. They aim a lot of this, and that's the criticism of the summer movie too. Is it's just immature, explosive, laden, no plot, just all action kind of movies that are made for 12-year-old boys. Well, there was this wonderful summer, the summer of 1982, that really defined, to me, the best summer ever for summer movies. And I'm going to just quickly kind of go through some of these movies. Blade Runner came out that summer. Man, an all-time thinky sci-fi. Just awesome. Conan the Barbarian. Not Conan the Destroyer, which was terrible. It came out a few years later. The original with Arnold Schwarzenegger was just so cool. That was a fun movie, and it taught me lots of lessons, like what is best in life.
Indeed. Yes.
I learned that from watching Conan. Next is E.T. That's the Spielberg movie of all Spielberg movies. That's the one where you really get to glimpse his heart, and it was a great movie and a lot of fun. That was probably my favorite of that summer.
And thank God, not the beginning of a franchise, right?
No, it's have diminished until you had basically Mac and Me. That's what it would have come to.
That's right.
At the end of that. Instead, we have this one beautiful thing that you can always go back to and show your kids, and that's E.T. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I was not allowed to see that one at age 12, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I saw it as a college student several years later, and it's a great movie, but it's not for 12-year-olds.
No.
And neither is An Officer and a Gentleman, which I ended up seeing about 3 years later. That is a great movie. Richard Gere was, he was in good form there. Of course, Pink Floyd, The Wall. That was weird and kind of wonderful. And Poltergeist. I did see Poltergeist that summer. Mm-hmm. And scared the heck out of me as a 12-year-old. It still holds up pretty well, I think, as a scary but fun and interesting kind of horror movie. Poltergeist is
that was a huge summer for Steven Spielberg, wasn't it? I mean, my God.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't think he directed Poltergeist. I think he produced it.
Okay.
I may be wrong.
He was involved for sure. Yeah.
He was involved. Yes. The Road Warrior. My favorite of the Mad Max franchise is definitely, and of course the newest one was pretty great too. Road Warrior is still my favorite. And what about you, Phil? Is that the
I almost put that on my list. In fact, if I wasn't going to put two from the same year, so I would have put that on there for 1982 if The Thing weren't such a just huge movie in my life. So John Carpenter slightly edged out The Road Warrior, but that's an awesome movie. I couldn't agree more.
Rocky III. Now, Rocky, the original Rocky, is the movie that is respected out of that franchise, and now we've even got a sequel franchise. In the Rocky verse, we've got Creed, and now a new Creed 2 is coming out this year. Awesome. Yes, Creed 2 is coming out. Yeah, Creed's great. So the sequel to Creed is out this year, but way back in 1982, it was Rocky III. And to me, that was the high point in the fun of the franchise. I had more fun with Rocky III than with any of them, and that was a great one. It still holds up. I mean, the pace of the action in that, it's got a great pace, and you can't get bored watching Rocky III.
The thing about that movie is it goes over the top, but you go with it, right?
Right.
It's got, for crying out loud, the bad guy is Mr. T. This was our introduction to Mr. T. The world. Yeah. And before that, he's got this big wrestling match with, I can't think of the guy's name now, the big, what is that wrestler's name? I can't think of his name. But anyway, who became a big wrestling icon in the 80s. So, I mean, there's just this ridiculous, over-the-top stuff going on. But it still had all the I don't know, the pathos and the characters and just the edge that the first two Rocky movies had, right? It was like, it was still his story. You were still kind of believing it. And it was like, this is as far as you can take it, right? Rocky III could have pretty much been the end until they got to, like, say, Rocky Balboa, as far as I'm concerned, because it was well done. That's how you turn Rocky into a summer movie, right there, right? I don't have much good to say about Rocky IV because they messed up the music, and without the big training sequence to the it's not a Rocky movie as far as I'm concerned. It's like, well, ruined it.
Well, they took the formula that was basically in the two movies and kind of threw it out because he's defeated, halfway into the movie, and they didn't leave it there, right? And so you get twice the Rocky, I think, in that movie that you get in any of the other Rockies. So he starts at the top and ends at the top, but it's a ride all the way through, and I love that movie. So
Rocky IV?
Rocky IV less so. You
were talking about Rocky III. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
I'm still on Rocky.
Yeah. So Rocky III was awesome, and then I think you were about to name another movie.
Star Trek II. The Wrath of Khan.
The
finest of the franchise, including the reboot Kelvin timeline series, is still, in my mind, Star Trek II. It's fantastic, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, right? So that was a great one. Love that movie. So
you know what? It was great. It was a summer movie. Think about it. The first Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which people don't much care for, definitely not.
It was meant to be in the basically 2001. They were trying to do the real serious 2001: A Space Odyssey in Star Trek form. It was boring. And
I have hope that someday there will be a big, serious science fiction, spectacular Star Trek movie that's smart and that deals with those kinds of issues. Sadly, I think we're going to see things like the Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie before we ever see that. But that should be a fun summer movie. So I'm not complaining. Me, I like a variety of Star Trek movies, but it's hard to top Star Trek 2. I mean, how can you, right?
You can't. Yeah. Well, okay. So next one on my list here is already been mentioned by Phil, and that's The Thing, and that was released June the 27th of that summer. So
this is where our lists meet. This is where we converge, Stephen.
That's right. So
we sit down and watch The Thing together someday.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have a Kurt Russell marathon. I think we should start with The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes and then go forward. I think that's pretty much.
Or maybe we just do the John Carpenter
Maybe
Kurt Russell movies, right? Escape from New York.
Well, that would include Escape from New York, which is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, exactly. Big Trouble in Little China. And The Thing. The Thing is the serious one. That's the.
That's right. Okay, and I guess one of the last I'm going to touch on, Phil, is Tron. That was released in July of that summer, and loved Tron. And I again, another one I actually saw that summer in the theaters. And man, that was a great summer and made me the cinema going guy I am. That summer, I mean, from going forward, I was always looking for a repeat of that summer. Never got it, not really, but there have been great movies along the way, and you just keep going back looking for that kind of fun that you had that summer. So,
well, when you go through that list, I look at that and I go, it's literally hard for me to believe those movies all came out not only in the same year, but within a few months of each other.
That's right. I mean, you could literally go through that summer. If you were going to relive that summer, you could literally go through that summer and go to a different classic movie that's considered a classic by us years and years later, every weekend, just about.
Yes, absolutely. And you were 12 years old. I'm going to tell you, Stephen, I was 12 when Jaws came out. So the summer movie was invented when I was 12. The best movie summer of all time was when you were 12. And I think for all our talk of movies, the conclusion that we're really coming to on this show is that it's great to be 12, right? I mean,
and you can never watch a movie as a 12-year-old again,
right.
And so what you watch at that time in your life has a lifelong impact, I think.
I feel bad for today's 12-year-olds for what they're getting. Actually, maybe not, because Ant-Man and the Wasp, right?
Ant-Man and the Wasp was great, man. I that was definitely the most fun I've had in the theater this year. Was Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I understand you hadn't gotten to it yet.
Haven't seen it yet.
This one I can recommend it. I think your kids can handle it. It's one that they would enjoy, I think. Unlike some superhero movies that take themselves too seriously and don't have fun with it, Ant-Man and the Wasp has oodles of fun with it. And unlike Deadpool, you can take your kids to it. Deadpool has fun with it, but you can't take your kids to it. So
I haven't seen Deadpool yet either, so I'm looking forward to that.
It's a lot of fun, but it's not a kids movie at all.
Right.
And keep your kids away from it. But you can take your kids, I believe, to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
What's really fun is, Stephen, 30 years from now, there will be some guy doing a podcast or whatever they do in 30 years talking about how in 2018, when he was 12, Ant-Man and the Wasp was just the greatest thing ever. But a few years later, he
it just
Deadpool
mave me
2.
love movies from then on. Yeah, it could be.
Came out the same year. Deadpool 2. Saw it a few years later. Liked it a lot too. Right? It'll be your list all over again. All right. Well, there you have it. Happy summer, everyone. Hope you enjoy some good movies. And we're going to be back next week with 3 brand new shows. I'm going to be talking to Nate Grundeman all next week. Stephen will be taking the week off, and then we'll be back the following week with 3 brand new shows again with more futuristic topics. Stephen, great talking with you. Great having you all with us. And until next time, live to see it.